Your sister gets your SUV, she has kids. Dad declared. Everyone agreed. I just smiled and opened a folder. Then you'll want to see what she did with her last car. Uncle Ron nearly fell out of his chair. Alright, so picture this. You're at Sunday family dinner, roast chicken steaming, everyone's laughing. And then my dad, with this air of absolute certainty, taps his glass and calmly announces, your sister gets your luxury SUV. She has kids. My blood didn't just run cold, it felt like it evaporated. Because in that single sentence, I realized everything I thought I knew about my family was fundamentally broken. And this time, I wasn't going to fix it. My name's Simon, I'm 36, and I run a mid-sized travel company. Think custom tours, families, small teams. Half the year, I'm living out of a backpack, answering emails from airport lounges, and I can pack a carry-on in 8 minutes flat. In my family, I'm the organized one. Which, let's be real, is code for the guy who pays for stuff, fixes problems, drives everyone everywhere, and then apologizes for it all. I'm the oldest, you know? My sister Tessa is 32, she's got 2 kids, and our parents live just 20 minutes away. Sunday lunches are a tradition. I'm the guy who brings the dessert, the fancy coffee, and somehow, always the car seats, because I inevitably end up driving someone home. But that Sunday, I brought something else. A thin, ugly, gray folder. It looked so out of place next to my mom's fake flowers and her best china. I put it on the chair next to me and tried not to look at it. I told myself I wouldn't need it. I told myself we'd talk like adults. We didn't. Dad waited until the roast chicken was on the table, everyone's mouths full. Then he tapped his glass like he was the manager of some hotel conference room. All right, he declared. It's decided. He didn't even look at me. His eyes started to Mom, then Tessa, then Uncle Ron, who was already half smiling like he was in on some backstage joke. Dad cleared his throat again. Your sister gets your SUV, Simon. She has kids. She needs the space. The room didn't go silent. It went busy. Nods. Little murmurs of agreement. Mom piped up, of course, like we were just discussing the weather. Tessa's husband, Dan, grunted, makes sense, already scrolling on his phone. Tessa herself let out this big sigh, like a monumental weight had been lifted. A weight, I might add, she never had any intention of carrying herself. I blinked. Once. Twice. My SUV? I heard myself ask, just to be absolutely sure I hadn't invented the words. The one registered to my company? The one I used to shuttle clients. Dad huffed. Company schmony. It just sits in your driveway. Your nephew's stroller doesn't fit in our hatchback. You can use your sedan for work. Mom jumped in. Be reasonable, Simon. You're single. You don't need luxury. And Tessa? She just shrugged. You can afford another one. Don't be so dramatic. Something in my chest tightened, a knot of pure indignation, but my voice came out eerily even. You decided this without me. Dad's jaw shifted, a warning. Don't start. Family looks out for family, right? I said, my hand reaching for that ugly gray folder. Funny you should mention kids, I continued, sliding the folder onto the table. Because here's what Tessa did with the last car someone let her borrow. Dan stopped scrolling. Mom's fork, halfway to her mouth, froze. Tessa's smile tried to stay on her face and then completely failed. I flipped the folder open. Inside were printed emails. Insurance forms. A police report. Photos. Crumpled hood. A Bent Street sign. That eerie, white dust of exploded airbags. Uncle Ron leaned in, uninvited, his eyes wide. He actually gasped when he saw the first picture. Oh wow. Tessa's voice went small. Simon. I didn't say anything else. Not yet. I just let the pages sit there, right in the middle of the table, next to the gravy boat, next to the neat, tidy family story they preferred to tell. I just kept breathing in, out. I remembered what my therapist always said, state facts, not feelings when they try to rewrite history. I remembered every single time I'd swallowed that same kind of sentence, it's decided. And I looked at my sister, at my parents, at the gaping hole my silence used to fill. And for the first time in a very long time, I didn't rush to fill it. My job looks shiny from the outside, you know? All those Instagram photos from Santorini, a client tagging me in their honeymoon post, the occasional hotel upgrade. But the truth? It's spreadsheets, razor-thin margins, and waking up at 3 in the morning to reroute a family because their toddler spiked a fever before a flight to Lisbon. I built this company from scratch, from a desk in a rental with a squeaky chair and a neighbor who practiced drums at midnight. I took calls on my lunch breaks from my old job, then I quit that, worked 2 part-time gigs just to keep the lights on. I learned to sell, to negotiate, to apologize with my whole spine. And while I was doing all that, my family learned one thing about me. I would always say yes. Simon, can you float us until Friday? Dad would text. Simon, daycare just raised rates. Can you help? That was Tessa. Simon, your grandmother's hearing aids. Mom would add, like a footnote. I said yes. I said yes because I remembered what it was like to have nothing to say yes with. I said yes because I thought that's what the oldest child does. And honestly, I said yes because I was proud I could. Small things became big things. Gas money turned into a car payment. That car payment led to me co-signing on Tessa's compact when she was between jobs. That compact became the SUV because then I was between cars after an airport shuttle dinged my old one and the insurance dragged its feet. I told myself the SUV would be practical for luggage. It was. It also became the family moving van, the Saturday Costco train, the emergency late-night ride for Dan when he'd had too much with the guys. Family looks out for family, Dad would say, like a stamp on every invoice I never sent. The worst part? I kept track. I had a quiet spreadsheet. Never showed anyone. Dates, amounts, reasons. I wasn't tallying to collect. I was trying to convince myself I wasn't crazy, that this slow, constant bleed I felt wasn't real. Every ask came with an emotional price tag. If I hesitated, Tessa would tilt her head. Wow, you've changed. Mom would sigh, we're not asking for a yacht. Dad's voice would get hard, after all we did for you. When I finally landed my company's first big corporate client, a software team needing a retreat in Mallorca, my parents threw a celebration dinner. Dessert came with a side of manipulation. By the way, Mom said, slicing cake, your sister's car is on its last legs. Maybe the right thing is to upgrade for the kids. Dad chimed in, Simon knows what to do. He's successful. Tessa even laughed, you know, I'd do the same for you. As if she was telling a joke with a happy ending. I bought the SUV. Not for Tessa. For my work. I liked its safety, the back row for client luggage, the way it could handle the crappy roads near airport hotels. I let Tessa use it sometimes. Because there were car seats. And sometimes is a word that erodes when you don't defend it. Then came the thing in the gray folder. A call at midnight. Tessa crying. It's not that bad, she sniffled. It looks worse than it is. A street name I recognized. Sirens in the background. Dan yelling at someone. He shouldn't have parked there, he kept repeating, as if that would make a bent stop sign stand up straight. I drove over in my dented sedan. The SUV? Oh, it wasn't ours. It was Dan's friend's car, a loaner. Tessa had clipped a curb, jumped it, and kissed a pole. Airbags out, smoke everywhere. Kids safe at home, thank God. But her excuse the next day? The steering just fell off. The police were polite, but clear. She'd been drinking. The friend's insurance called me because guess who is still the emergency contact on everything? Your family, they said. We figured you'd want to help smooth this. The friend later said, it's fine, we're cool. Which, you know, is code for it's not fine, and we're not cool. Tessa swore she'd pay the deductible. We'll handle it, Dan promised. I watched that promise float away like a balloon someone let go of on purpose. I checked my spreadsheet and added a new line. I didn't tell my parents about the drinking. I told myself I was protecting her. I told myself it wasn't my job to start a house fire. But little things kept burning anyway. A missing $600 from Mom's vacation fund. My name somehow ended up on the vendor list for the school fundraiser, and my card on file was used for the donation. Dan borrowed my business credit card to hold a hotel reservation and forgot to cancel it. It sat there, like a small, parasitic worm, until my accountant flagged it. Then came the part where I was not invited to my own erasure. I found out from a cousin's Instagram that there was a family planning chat for big decisions. There was a screenshot of a group video call, everyone's face in neat little boxes, everyone but mine. The caption, #teamwork makes the dream work. The next morning, Mom called like nothing was off. Sunday lunch, same time, she said. Oh, and Tessa's stroller situation is a nightmare. We'll talk then. I put the folder together that afternoon. Not because I wanted to explode. Because I was tired of being the only person who remembered. I printed the police report. I printed the email chain with Dan's friend where I apologized for something I didn't do. I printed my own spreadsheet. I didn't plan a speech. I planned to stop pretending. One more thing happened before Sunday. My operations manager, Leah, pulled me aside after a staff meeting. You've been taking calls in the hall, she said, so gently. You disappear. You come back angry or empty. We cover for you. That's not in our job description. I opened my mouth, closed it. Simon, she said, her eyes so kind, we like you. We like this company. Please stop bleeding for people who cut you. I went home and looked at the folder again. It looked back. Back at the table, those photos just sat there, between the gravy boat and the bread basket, like an unwelcome guest. No one touched a roll. Dad pointed at the report. What is this? I kept my voice flat. Tessa crashed a friend's car after drinking. Last fall. She told me to keep it quiet. Mom gasped like I'd sworn in church. Don't say drinking, as if that could unsay it. The breathalyzer number is on page 2, I said. Tessa's cheeks flushed. It was my birthday dinner. I was under the limit when I left. The curb was weird. Dan chimed in. The alignment was trash, as if he'd personally inspected it. Uncle Ron, bless him, made a low whistle. Those airbag photos. Yikes. Dad snapped. Ron. Then he rounded on me. What's your point, Simon? To humiliate your sister? We're talking about the SUV. Exactly, I said. The SUV that's owned by my company. The SUV that's insured commercially. The SUV you just allocated like you allocate the last piece of pie. Mom leaned forward, hands folded like a talk show host. We're not monsters. We're being practical. Kids, strollers, life. Tessa rolled her eyes. This is why you're single. You care more about paperwork than people. I let that one pass. I slid out the second stack. My spreadsheet. I'd highlighted 3 years of transfers, Venmo notes, groceries, urgent for the kids, receipts for soccer fees, an invoice I paid for a plumber who didn't take cards. The amount at the bottom looked like a used car. Dad scoffed. What is this, an audit? Families don't send invoices. Families also don't take what isn't offered, I shot back. But you do. Then you call it generosity on my part, so you can call it entitlement if I stop. Mom's voice went syrupy, dripping with false concern. Simon, sweetheart, we're all tired. You're stressed. You're making money. You can handle it. Tessa and Dan are starting out. We already did that for you. You didn't, I said, quietly. You lent me $400 11 years ago, and I paid you back in 2 weeks. Dad's face tightened. Watch your tone. Tessa slammed her palm on the table. This is insane. We came to talk like grown-ups. You brought props. I looked at her. You brought a decision. Dan shifted in his seat. Look, man, she needs a bigger car. The kids. I cut him off with the thing I'd saved for last. The insurance letter. With my business name on it. The part about non-permitted drivers and policy voids. If Tessa drives the company SUV and hurts someone, I said, the claim goes through my commercial policy. If she's over the limit again, the company eats it. My employees eat it. My clients eat it. I'm not feeding anyone that. The room finally went quiet. Not busy. Quiet. Dad tried one last angle. What kind of brother are you? I looked straight at him. The kind who's done being a wallet. Mom's eyes flashed. After everything we invested in you. In me? I said, a laugh bubbling up. You invested in my sister's birthday parties and dance bar tabs and the new patio furniture you put on hold on my card. I invested in flights and refunds and emergency hotels for strangers who become repeat clients and keep my team paid. Those are different investments. Tessa swallowed. So, it's a no. It's a no, I confirmed. You don't get my SUV. You don't get my yes by ambush. You don't get my silence anymore. Uncle Ron, soft, like he couldn't help himself, said, good for you, kid. Dad stood up so fast his chair squealed against the floor. If you walk out of here with that attitude, don't come crawling back when you need us. I picked up the gray folder. I haven't needed you since I learned to make instant noodles. Tessa's voice cracked. You're punishing me for one mistake. I paused at the doorway. It's not one. It's the pattern where I pay and you pretend it's kindness. This time, I brought pictures. I sat in my SUV in their driveway for a long, long time. The engine was off. It was the kind of quiet where you can hear your own pulse thudding in your ears. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, though. From all the times I hadn't said what I just said. My phone buzzed. Leah. How did it go? I typed. I didn't hand them the keys. She sent a clapping emoji. Then, your 10 a.m. tomorrow is the school travel council. You okay to present? I stared at the dashboard. I felt weirdly light. Yeah, I wrote back. I can do that. The fallout started before I even reached the end of their street. My family group chat, the one I was still in, apparently, exploded. Mom, your behavior today was cruel. Dad, you embarrassed your sister. Tessa, I can't believe you would bring that up in front of Uncle Ron. Dan, bro, not cool. I didn't answer. I archived the thread. Then a text from an unknown number. Hey, Simon. It's Laura. We met at Tessa's last Christmas. I'm Ron's daughter. Just wanted to say, proud of you. Somebody had to say it. I didn't know what to do with that, so I put my phone face down and drove to the car wash like it was a sacred ritual. I vacuumed sand out of the mats that had been there since a client beach day. I wiped sticky fingerprints from the rear window that were not from any child I knew. I set the seat positions back to mine. At home, I opened my laptop and did something petty that felt like surgery. I removed Dad, Mom, Tessa, and Dan from the trusted contacts on my roadside assistants. I changed the gate code at my place. I told insurance to update the list of permitted drivers to 1. I texted Leah and asked her to get company decals on the SUV this week. Make it obviously not a family car. Make it mine, but not just mine. Ours. The team's. Mom called. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was a masterclass in manipulation. She cycled through tones, hurt, concern, logistics. The kids will suffer, she concluded. And when they ask why Uncle Simon doesn't love them, I hope you have an answer. I walked around my apartment and touched objects like they were brand new. The kettle I bought secondhand. The couch that cradled me when I came home wrecked from a client who screamed at me over a seat map. The framed photo of my team at our first real office party. We looked tired and proud and a little stunned. The next morning, I presented to the school council without thinking once about the SUV. I talked about safe itineraries and insurance and what you do when a 12-year-old swallows a marble in Madrid. People laughed. People nodded. I remembered why I built this thing. So families can see the world without falling apart at the airport. After the meeting, a mom stopped me. "We've heard great things about you," she said. "From Leah. She said you show up." She handed me a deposit check right there, amidst the cafeteria smell. My hands were steady when I took it. The week after, Dan texted, then called, then texted again. "We can work something out," he wrote. "Maybe we can lease your SUV from you." Lease, as if a new word changed the old problem. I didn't reply. Tessa sent a long message that started with "You humiliated me" and ended with "Fine, keep your stupid car." In the middle, she wrote, "You think saying no makes you strong, but it just makes you lonely." I stared at that sentence for a long time, because it was the one that used to work on me. I answered with one line. "Saying no makes room." Dad drove the loneliness knife too. "Your mother is not sleeping," he said over the phone, as if insomnia were my invoice. "Is this really the man you want to be?" I said yes, and he hung up. There were other consequences, the kind you can't put in a ledger. Mom made a separate group chat without me and named it Family. Ron sent me a screenshot, because apparently he still had a sense of drama. In the chat, they wrote things like, "We can't rely on Simon anymore," and "We need a plan B." The part that hurt and healed at the same time was Ron's reply, "Plan B is everyone paying for their own stuff like adults." Yeah, good on the decals. When I pulled into the office, the SUV had my company name cleanly printed on the doors. It looked like a decision. We reworked processes. No more courtesy shuttles for relatives. No more, just this once, card holds. I brought my spreadsheet to my accountant. "Do I need to do anything formal?" I asked. She looked at the columns, then at me. "Just stop adding lines," she said. On Friday, my cousin Mia called. She whispered like we were in a spy movie. "I'm sorry for my mom," she said. "She's been parroting your parents for years. It's like a script." She paused. I think you gave me permission to stop doing that." Later, she left the family chat. She texted me a screenshot. "Oops," she wrote. Tessa didn't crash again. She did something else. She started to cope in the group chat by telling a new story. Asterisk Simon is selfish. Simon forgot what family means. Simon thinks money makes him better. Asterisk I learned you can't out-debate a story someone needs to survive. You just stop being a character in it. But sometimes, the story cracks anyway. 2 weeks after the Sunday lunch, Tessa called me from a parking lot. I could hear both kids fussing in the background. "The stroller really doesn't fit in our car," she said, a kind of tired in her voice that I recognized from my worst travel days. "I'm not asking for your SUV," she added quickly. Do you know any deals on used minivans? Like from your client hotels or anything?" I breathed. "I know a rental company rotating out vehicles," I said. "They're reliable. I can send you contacts." She said, very quiet, "Thank you." "Pay them directly," I added. "No middleman." "No me." "Yeah," she said. I got it. We hung up while the kids were still fussing. It didn't feel like peace. It felt like a room with a window barely cracked open. Air. Not yet a breeze. The last ripple came from Uncle Ron. He asked me to meet him at a diner at the edge of town. The one with pie that tastes like a box mix and a waitress who remembers your order if you tip well. Ron slid into the booth and didn't waste time. "You were right," he said. "Your dad has a way of making decisions sound like commandments." He pushed a mug toward me. "You never asked me for anything, so I'm going to give you something. A heads up." He told me Mom was planning a family intervention where the theme would be reconnecting. He told me the plan involved a speech, photos of the kids, and a new ask dressed as nostalgia. "Don't go," he advised. "Or if you go, bring the folder." I laughed for the first time. It didn't sound like a defense. It sounded like breath. I didn't go to the reconnecting party. I sent flowers that said, "Have a lovely afternoon, Simon." I picked the plainest bouquet I could find. The card looked like a receipt. That was the point. I drove to the coast instead. Not for a dramatic sunset, but for a parking lot facing a gray sea on a gray day where nobody needed anything from me. I drank coffee too hot from a paper cup and watched a couple argue about a map, then laugh because the argument was small and their day was big.